Welcome to the Just Ingredients podcast. I'm Carolyn, and here we talk all things nourishing to the mind, body, and soul. This is a place where you can find just good ingredients to life. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today I have Kimberly Snyder with me. She's a 3-time New York Times bestselling author, the founder of the holistic lifestyle brand, Saluna, and the host of the Feel Good podcast. Kimberly is dedicated to promoting heart-led wellness around the globe, and I'm excited for her to share more about her insights as a holistic wellness expert and nutritionist with us today. So welcome to the show, Kimberly.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
I am actually really intrigued about what I want to talk about with you today because I haven't really had guests on my podcast talk about this. And you have a new book that just came out, The Hidden Power of the 5 Hearts, which I'm so excited to talk to you about. But before we delve into all these questions, will you just tell my listeners a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yes. So it's an interesting journey, Carolyn. This is my 8th book. So I started my pathway into wellness, wanting to feel better in my own body, which I think is why a lot of us get called to wellness. I had a lot of bloating issues. I had a lot of digestion issues. I had acne. In high school, I had eating disorders. So I ended up traveling around the world for 3 years after college. After thinking I was going to be a doctor, I went in with a partial science math scholarship. Then I worked in a hospital and realized it wasn't my path. So I saved up some money. I went on the road, and it really dramatically changed my perspective of wellness and beauty and energy and success and all these different aspects of life. So I came back to New York City, and all I did was I started a free blog. I was starting to teach yoga. I was going back to nutrition school. And I was really speaking about this different approach, which was, now we hear more about holistic wellness, but it really was about the total person, mentally, spiritually, energetically, emotionally, and physically. And it just started to get a lot of traction. I didn't know anything about marketing or online marketing, but it started to spread throughout New York City. Then my first celebrity found me, Uma Thurman. I got on a film set. Next thing I knew, I was working with all these different celebrities. So my work took me to LA, and I just started getting different book deals. Along the way, my work started expanding as well. What I was writing about, my first 2 books were about nutrition. And then my 3rd book, called The Beauty Detox Power, was really about the connection between emotions and our physical wellness and sort of tying everything together. Then I wrote a book with Deepak Chopra, which is about Ayurveda and meditation, kept expanding and expanding. And then I started my brand Saluna, which has 4 cornerstones: food, body, emotional well-being, and spiritual growth. And this new book on the heart and heart coherence really ties what I believe every single aspect of the lifestyle, what I teach, which started coming to me a few years ago. So my work has really shifted into this heart-led way of living and wellness. And that's the perspective, the lens through which I teach everything in our lifestyle.
Oh, I love that. That has been quite the journey you have been on. And I know you have taught so many people and helped so many people. And so, like I said earlier, I want to talk about this book, The Hidden Power of the 5 Hearts, because it's just so intriguing to me. And so, I have so many questions. Should we start with first why you talk about that the heart functions like a brain?
Yes. So let me back up a little bit. When I was doing research for my last book called You Are More Than You Think You Are, I came across a piece of research around the heart that made me do a triple take. And it was about how the heart is another brain containing 40,000 neurons, and that the heart sends more messages to the brain up in our head than vice versa. And my first thought was, why don't I know about this? I've been working in wellness for over 14 years. And as I started to go down the rabbit hole, not just scientifically, but also I love ancient texts. I love spiritual teachings. I was looking at the Vedas and what they were talking about with the heart and these 5 different heart stages, which we can get into in a moment. And my next thought, Carolyn, was everybody needs to know about this. So as parents, those of us who are parents, when you go into the doctor, when you get an ultrasound, I remember hearing the heartbeat of my children And the doctor says, oh, the heart comes first before the brain. And I remember hearing this, my kids are 4 and 8 now, and just sort of, wow, that's amazing. And then moving on. But as I started to get into the research, what we know now about heart coherence and what this can really do for our health, our vitality, our hormonal health, slowing down aging, creating better gut health, so many different aspects of wellness are really contingent on learning how to tap into this heart brain, to these simple, pretty simple practices, but really powerful practices and teachings that I teach in the new book. And allowing from the heart, you can start to change the perceptions up in your mind. So what that means is more clarity, getting past overthinking and confusion, which is really the basis of the stress response, which disables our bodies and it creates so much havoc in the body. So anyways, we ended up doing a formal research study on a practice in the new book with the Heart Math Institute, finding in as little as 8 minutes, 4 to 5 times a week, you can increase your coherence 29% in 4 weeks, having these incredible benefits. So I'm really passionate about teaching this because we can eat really well. We can use non-toxic products. We can improve our sleep. We can work out. We can do all the things. But for me, Carolyn, when you really turn on the heart's power and this heart brain, you can take everything to the next level and beyond.
Okay, I have so many questions, but let's first start with heart coherence, because I've heard you say that twice just in that little explanation, and we better explain to people what that really means.
So let me use an analogy that I use in the book. Imagine that you're swimming from one shore to the other shore in a lake. And in one swim, you're swimming across, the sunlight is on your shoulders, you feel great, you're not really thinking, you're enjoying your swim. You get to the other side and you feel energized. Now imagine the same swim, but partway through you hit a rock, you scrape your knee, you start to get really annoyed, you end up swimming in the wrong direction for a minute, you come back, there's water, fog in your goggles, you have to stop. So you get to the other side still, but you've wasted a lot of energy and you've gotten quite frustrated and irritated. So the first swim is what coherence is like as an experience in our body. And really what it is the syncing up of heart, brain, nervous system communication. And so when we are in coherence, our body is able to be more efficient with energy. And this is why, over 500 research papers published in really established journals like the American Journal of Cardiology and others shows that it slows aging. It allows us to better all these different processes from, reducing inflammation to increasing our immunity, lowering cortisol. I mean, we could go on and on and on. When we're incoherent, which basically is characterized in the first heart stage, known as the dark heart, means the heart and the brain aren't speaking properly. So this is where you get stressed out really easily. There's a lot of fear, a lot of overwhelm. Your body is in a constant state of fight or flight. So even, like I said, you may be eating well and doing these wellness practices, working out, doing weight-bearing exercise, all the things we hear about internally, you could just be draining and depleting yourself day in and day out. And when I started to learn about this work, Carolyn, and bring it into my client work and in myself, it was amazing because I would say, and I'm not kidding, I would say my energy has gone up about 60%. And I thought I had a lot of energy before, but what we're not accounting for is all these little ups and downs in the day, right? Like in the swim, you hit the rock, your goggles fog up. What the research shows is that 2 minutes of experiencing irritation or frustration puts into motion 1,500 different biochemical processes that ultimately drain your energy. So think about 2 minutes, like, I missed that traffic light, or my dog threw up on my shoes again, or my child's having another tantrum. If we don't have tools for regulating, again, coherence is getting centered, avoiding going into the stress response, not trying to minimize it with some of the simple tools, which we can share about in a moment. And, obviously in far more detail in the book, we are able to maintain and elevate our own vitality. As Dr. Roland McCready, Director of Research of Heart Math, who I did the research study with for the Heart Aligned meditation, says, emotions run the show. Emotions run the show, right? It's the irritation, the overwhelm, the frustration underneath the traffic or the bad weather or whatever, the email, like our response to the email, that is having such a profound effect on our body. And so again, after, this is my 8th book, after so many years of working in wellness, so many years of really diving so deeply into nutrition and yoga and Ayurveda and fitness and all these different aspects, this is why I say the heart ties it really together. Because when we are coherent and we've turned on the heart brain, moment to moment, we have a different perspective. We're more peaceful. And we could talk about the heart stages now, perhaps, or in a moment, to show how different it is, our experience of life, our health, our vitality, everything is in such a different place.
Well, I was just thinking, when you said 2 minutes of irritation, I'm like, that is everybody in the world. Like, there's always something that happens during the day. So we've all got to learn how to get this coherence. So we can either talk about the 5 stages. Let's talk about the 5 stages of the heart. Then we'll talk about how we actually can help get ourselves in this coherent state.
Yes, I think that's a good framework. So the book is called The Hidden Power, right? This coherence, this ability to really use the heart brain to elevate pretty much every aspect of your life. And the 5 hearts are 5 heart stages that were written about in the Vedic texts. So the oldest texts in the world basically go from the Rig Veda to the Atharva Veda, which is where Ayurveda is written about. And Swami Sri Yukteswar, who was Yogananda's guru, who basically brought yoga to the West, had a book that I read over and over again when I was getting into this heart work called the Holy Science. And he talks about these 5 stages that all humans go through to awaken into our fullest potential. So imagine I was reading these texts, and at the same time, I was diving into the science. And what I saw was an intersection between the science of heart coherence and these ancient teachings. So the first heart stage is the dark heart. And the dark heart means not sinister, not evil. Dark as in we don't see, right? Heart and brain aren't speaking properly. What this looks like is very erratic HRV patterns if we were to look at a graph. What this feels like is that low energy, lots of fear, lots of confusion. You don't know what your purpose is. Running around, overthinking, overwhelmed, maybe sitting on your couch, watching screens all day, numbing, having hours of Netflix or wine or whatever it is. So let's say a bit more energy comes in. Let's say you make a lifestyle change, something happens. Now you have more energy. You enter what's called the propelled heart. So you're propelled into action. But this stage is where you're feeling like you're always on, right? Lots of anxiety, one thing to the next. What's the next achievement? Next thing to check off my to-do list. So there's a lot of restlessness. There's a lack of peace. Very externally oriented. What do I look like? What do people think of me? How do I have to look perfect on social media? Rigid plans. I'm supposed to make this much money by a certain point. I should have 3 kids by the time I'm 32, right? So there's a lot of stress at this heart stage. And again, just that burnout, always on, lots of inflammation, chronic gut health issues. Just a lack of peace in your life. So then there's a big jump to stage 3. This is where we start to feel more anchored inside. Heart coherence really starts to grow at the steady heart stage, stage 3. This is where we become less attached to the outside world, people understanding us, people agreeing with us, things having to be just so. We find more safety and security inside of us. And as such, we become far more resilient to stress. Instead, we're harmonizing, we're flowing with life. Health and vitality really grow. And then stage 4 is the devoted heart. So now we're not just anchored inside, but we're more devoted to these inner heart qualities: connection, love, peace, harmony, compassion, and care, right? It becomes more about moment to moment, really being present with this person in front of us. So emotional intelligence really grows, intuition grows. And ironically, even though we're not pushing in the same way as the propelled heart, we tend to have far more success in our endeavors. And I want to show you this graph. This is from the Heart Math Institute research. See this, Carolyn? We could show this to the viewers. This is the torus field of the heart. So basically the heart's electromagnetic energy is going out 8 to 10 feet, and it's the strongest field in the body, 100 times stronger than the brain. So when we are more coherent, which is measurable by magnetometers, we are, it's a way of basically measuring scientifically how we're more magnetic. People are more drawn to us. I don't know what it is. What are you working on? I want to, find out. I want to help. I'd like to ask you out on a date. Amazing things can start to happen because we change our inner state. So then stage 5 is known as the clear heart, where we're not just devoted and anchored to our own hearts, but this is where yoga would describe it as samadhi, oneness, true connection. Now we're connected to all other hearts. We transcend judgment, comparison, competition. We can deeply connect. This is the field where there's deep, incredible synchronicities. And I could tell an amazing story about being in this stage and, where you can just really tap in without the same mind-based, arduous pushing, making it happen. There's just much more easefulness, flow states this is how you characterize your everyday life.
So interesting. Okay. I feel like, though, that everybody could be at any one of these stages throughout the day. I mean, I feel like you could be at a good place where you have this clear heart and you're connected with others, but then life happens and some situation happens and you're back down to, the dark heart. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you for pointing that out. I do say that in the book. In a day, even in an hour, right? You could feel really steady, but then you see something on the news or something triggers you on social media. So it's not that, we're always going to be in one stage, but what the teachings and the evidence-based tools, what the research shows in the book is that when you do these practices, and some of them are integrated in your life, 3 to 10 seconds, right? The heart aligned meditation is less than 8 minutes. You increase what's called your coherence capacity. So your baseline grows. So the more coherent you become, the more anchored you are. So you spend more time in steady, devoted, and clear, right? And when you have a moment in the propelled heart, you see an email, you get stressed, you feel yourself getting stressed, or the dark heart, you know how to get out faster, right? And my personal experience, someone who's had a lot of anxiety in my life, you don't go into those stages as often. So experiencing these clear heart moments and the intuition that comes in the devoted heart isn't so fleeting, random. You're actually able to train and increase your coherence. Remember, in the research study, what we did, Carolyn, was we took 30 people into the lab. We measured their HRV patterns. All we did was give them the track to the meditation. We say, hey, practice this 4 to 5 times a week. That's it. They came back after 30 days. And in 30 days, measurable with the scientific M-Wave Pro equipment from HeartMath, their coherence had gone up on average 29%.
Wow.
So the more coherent you are, the more time you spend. And I will say this, there was ex-military people in our study, there were busy moms, and there were lots of different types of people. 2 of the people in the study were professional women. One was a doctor and one was a high-level producer here in Hollywood. And both of them were in their late 30s and wanting to find a relationship and start a family. They had been on Raya and Bumble and these dating apps and had no success. One of them, within 3 weeks of the study, and the other one, within 5 weeks of the study, true story, found their life partners. One of them is already engaged. One of them is about to be engaged. She just went to Italy. She talks about this all the time publicly. So what happened? Their energy changed. And then they had different results in the outer world. And I think this is such an important message, Carolyn, because so often we feel disempowered. It's so hard. There's no one out there. There's no jobs, whatever we think out there. But the truth is, we can change so much when we change, when we awaken our heart's power, when we shift our energy, our perceptions change, and also how people perceive us, right? So there's incredible quantum leaps that can be made.
I have a lot of questions, but let's start with the people that found their life partner. Is that because their energetic field, that magnetic field that you say reaches 8 to 10 feet, did that grow Is that what you're saying? And so then others were attracted to them, or not necessarily?
Okay, so again, I'm going to show the heart field, which extends 8 to 10 feet away from you. So here's the thing. You hear a lot about manifesting, trying to make things happen, making vision boards, journaling, right? There's so many things that people can do. I will say this, energy doesn't lie, right? What I mean by that is you can say, I want this job, I want a life partner, but how you're showing up, the energy that you are embodying is felt and registered by yourself and people around you, whether they consciously realize it or not, right? Again, these just the way you would go in and get an EKG, it's measurable. You're measuring the electromagnetic frequencies. People can feel your energy. We can delude ourselves and say that communication is just about what we say, but it's really the energy. It's like when you go in a coffee shop and you don't even speak to that person at the table, but you can feel what's going on. Maybe they're, just exuding a bad mood, or maybe they seem really joyful. So what happened in coherence is that you're changing your field. Your emotional energies are broadcast out through the field. And as you become more coherent, your field is registered as more harmonious, more strong, right? So let's say you do say you want a partner, but you are in chaos. You have no emotional regulation. You're in stress response all the time. That can actually repel people away and opportunities and situations. Let me show you this this graph. That was another graph, because it's nice to see what it looks like in science. When you're angry, this is how it reads in an HRV pattern. If anyone's listening to this and you can't see, it's disordered and chaotic. When you're in a state of appreciation, which is what we use, part of the practice in the heart aligned meditation, see these smooth sine waves? This is echoed throughout the body. This is where the psychological becomes the physiological, because your heart is your main biological oscillator. So when we're talking about coherence, we're talking about entrainment. It pulls the other systems into efficiency, right? So now your heart and your brain are communicating well. And this is why your digestion improves, your immunity grows, your hormones improve. Let me show you this other graph, because when you start to see, this is why I put so much science in the book. I think for people to see, especially if you have a really discerning mind, wow, this is provable in science. Look at this. In 1 month of doing the practices that I teach in the Hidden Power of the Five Hearts, which has all this amazing research from Heart Math and our own study in it, on average, cortisol went down 23%. And DHEA, which is a precursor hormone that's needed for vitality and fertility and all these incredible functions, went up 100%.
Wow.
100%, Carolyn. And what I'm talking about is tapping into the power of your heart. I'm not talking about, radically changing your diet or taking a million different supplements. This is amazing. This is amazing. Your energy shifts. And I'll say, as entrepreneurs and those of us in the business world, let me tell you, when you are coherent, your ability to see different solutions, creative ideas, communicate better with your team, win-win, right? You can see through to what people are really trying to communicate. You can regulate yourself so that you are perceived in a very different way on Zooms and board meetings. It can just change so much in our lives.
So fascinating. Okay, can we go back to the 5 stages? Because
Yes.
I know a lot of people, when you were describing those, were like, okay, I am in the dark and the propelled. And
Yes.
we know people in there, even ourselves, where we're just go, go, go. We've got anxiety, we've got burnout, inflammation. And so I know people are like, yeah, of course I want to be in the devoted and clear, but how? How do I get there? And so are there like things they practice to help them get there?
So, and to your point, most of society is in the dark heart and the propelled heart. And we might be steady or devoted in one part of our life, like our relationship with our pets, but we may be very dark and propelled, let's say in our relationship with our loved ones or in our work, right? It can shift in different parts. So again, what we want to do is train our coherence. We want to raise our baseline, just like in the study. So for anyone wanting to awaken your heart more, first of all, it's essential to understand the heart stages. There's practices in each of them. Number 2, to practice the heart aligned meditation, just like we did in the study. This is proven in science, 4 to 5 times a week. We're talking about, it's less than 8 minutes. So we're talking about as little as 32 minutes a week, Carolyn, to raise your coherence almost a third. To me, there's nothing more valuable that you can do for your health, your wellness, your relationships than really learning about heart coherence, right? It's so powerful in all aspects, digestion, intuitive eating, everything. And then number 3, as I mentioned, there are practices in the book that they are not meditations. They're in your everyday life. So you do the meditation in the morning because then you go into your day more coherent. But let's say in the Propelled chapter, there's a really powerful practice called the Heart Align Harmonize practice. 3 to 10 seconds. I do it all the time. I'm doing the dishes. My kids are going bananas. Go into your heart. You get coherent. And then you literally show up differently. You can speak differently as you go into that situation. My husband loves stuff. I'll tell you a quick story. I remember coming back after a long trip with the kids. We also have a farm in Hawaii. So we got off the plane, get to the house, tons of boxes on the porch. I was so tired. And I just said, old pattern. Ugh, more stuff again. And then his old wound, don't control me. His reaction is he says, I can buy what I want, right? So in the past, before these tools, just like little jabs, little tension, the kids would feel it, friction. In that moment, I got to the porch first. I remember I turned my head and went into my heart. I did this harmonized practice. And then I turned to him really clear and I said, I'm really sorry. I know that sounded sharp, but I would really love if you would put away the boxes right away. Clear, right? No stories, no edginess. From heart coherence, we're able to express. And you know what? For the first time, he unpacked and he immediately took the boxes out. So when we are in this power, it doesn't mean we're pushovers. Sometimes people think, the heart's irrational or sentimental. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about clear, calm, expressive, right from the most, efficient place, not only from a bodily organ perspective, but in your emotional intelligence. So you will get your needs met and you will be able to just feel so much more powerful in your life. There's so much less wasted energy.
So can we just give a practical example? Because you say this harmonizing practice only takes 3 seconds. And I'm like, great, I got 3 seconds. I can do that doing dishes, like you said, or in the car. But what is it? Is it taking a big, deep breath? Is it telling yourself something? What is it exactly?
Let's do an abbreviated heart aligned meditation. Can we do that for about 90 seconds?
Perfect.
Once you have that foundation, you'll be able to take aspects for these other practices, which are described in the book, right? One's for dealing with big emotions, in the steady heart, one's for stress, one's for forgiveness. There's many different practices in the book, but I'll give you the foundation, which is the one that we did the research study on. Okay, you ready? Okay, so let's go ahead and close our eyes. And straight away, you're going to place your attention on your heart. So for some, it's helpful to actually physically touch your heart with your hand or both hands. It's not necessary, but if it feels helpful, you can. So what's amazing is that research published in the American Journal of Cardiology shows that this alone, just placing our attention on our hearts, starts to rewire our nervous system. So now, while you focus on your heart, you're going to take some nice, deep breaths in and out, imagining that you're breathing in and out of your heart like a giant lung. Now, there's a coherence breath practice in the book that I describe. We're not going to get into all of that now, but just focusing on the heart, taking deep breaths in and out. And this is actually starting to change the input signal from your heart to your brain. and your amygdala. Start to feel nice and grounded, and there's incredible biological shifts happening inside at the same time, and energetic shifts. And now, while you focus on your heart and continue to take those deep breaths, I'd like you to recall someone or something that makes you feel appreciation, which is a mix of gratitude and thankfulness and awe. Could be a loved one, could be a pet or a sunset that you saw. And we're going to focus on this feeling of appreciation in your heart. It's coherence, boosting emotion. It can feel expansive, feel a little tingly and warm. For just a few moments, we're going to sustain this. Really let everything go, any thoughts, any distractions. Just focus on your heart. Feel appreciation. Really go into that feeling. Just a few more moments. Now you're going to take another deep breath in and out of your heart. Another deep breath in, breathing in appreciation. Exhaling out appreciation. And one more, breathing in appreciation and peace. And exhaling out appreciation and peace. And now we'll take a moment to thank your heart for its amazing wisdom and to give thanks for anything else that arises spontaneously. Tell me your experience.
Well, I love that it's based upon gratitude. And so you hear all of these studies, that gratitude can really affect your health. And this is possibly why is that it's affecting your heart, which then affects all these other physical things.
Yes. So it's a bit more specific, right? Gratitude is part of it. People can make gratitude lists, they can write things, but come from a very linear, heady place. So the steps, which are, more detailed in the book as well, is where you focus your attention while you're breathing, while you're doing a certain breath technique, is starting to create neuroplasticity between your heart and your brain. It's starting to change the input signal. So it's not just like, oh, I'm grateful, or I'm just taking deep breaths, or thinking through meditations. You're going to a different place to find the solution, which is in your heart. So it's a very specific way of starting to turn on the heart brain. And appreciation was shown in research to be one of the easier to access heart-based emotions. I say heart-based because these are the emotions that create, remember those smooth sine waves? They create this real coherence, which is not just felt mentally, but actually echoed through all the different systems in your body. And what's also amazing is, the devoted heart is so much about love, compassion, care. The heart has been talked about for thousands of years, right? All the Babylonians, the Greeks, the ancient Egyptians didn't remove the heart from the mummies. All the religions, this sacred heart of Jesus Christ, this image, the Anahata chakra, the Heart Sutra in Buddhism, Kalb mentioned throughout the Quran, which translates to heart, the word lev, which translates to heart in Hebrew through the Torah. So there's always been this ancient knowledge about the heart as the gateway to the true self, to higher self, to spirit, however you like to think of it. And so now in science, they're showing that these emotions, which we've been taught from the ancients, right? Really unconditional love, compassion, really do boost these functions in the body. And it's harder in daily life to just sit and be like, okay, I'm going to be peaceful, right? Like we said, so many of us are in the propelled heart. But what the tools in the book are about is grounding you into the heart, right? Evidence-based, not just like, oh, I'm going to be in my heart today and it's sort of fleeting or random or, non-specific, and allowing you to really go into these higher heart stages and increase your baseline so you can experience more of the bliss, the expansion, the truth of who we really are.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our show sponsor. You know about the Just Ingredients podcast, but did you know that Just Ingredients also offers a complete product line? About 5 years ago, I set out to create the kinds of products I couldn't find anywhere else. Non-toxic, nourishing, effective, and made with the best ingredients. Today, Just Ingredients brings you everything from powerful botanical supplements designed to support hormone balance, weight loss, and energy, to 100% grass-fed whey and plant-based protein powders, flavored naturally without artificial sweeteners or flavors or preservatives. Plus, we offer a range of nutritional supplements, beauty and dental products made with the same commitment to purity and quality. We provide products that help nourish your body inside and out. Visit justingredients.us to explore our full range and find products that support your healthy lifestyle. Now back to the show. Okay, so I have a question about, because you said that people can start this every day by taking 8 minutes of meditation. And so is this a certain meditation, or people can do their own meditation, or people can do prayer? Does it have to be something specific?
Again, it's specifically the heart-aligned meditation that was researched. You can pray, you can add on, you can certainly pray. I also pray after I've done the meditation because it really makes you more coherent and out of your thoughts. Many meditations are disassociative. Imagine I'm in a happy place, I'm in a waterfall, taking you out of where you are. This heart-aligned meditation, which is described in the book, there's also tracks of the meditation on my website, mysoluna.com, which are free for everyone to access, paired with coherence building music. This is a very specific meditation, Carolyn, right? It's not just, most people say to me, and I've had this experience as well, I'm just sort of thinking through my meditation. I'm not really there. It's not really doing anything. Here we're coming into our place of presence and power, which is the heart. It's bringing this forward into your life. We're not trying to be somewhere else, right? We're right here, right now, and that's the power of what the heart-aligned meditation does.
Okay, so what do you say to those people? Because you just hit on something that happens to me all the time. I start out meditations really well, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking about my to-do list for the rest of the day.
So it's a practice, right? And I think that some meditations aren't really about presence. It's like a lot of thinking. So what happens for most people is you're trying to battle thoughts and the mind from the same place where the challenge is, which in this case is the overthinking mind. With the work I'm talking about, you're going to a different place. Can you feel it right now while we're talking? Just place some of your attention on your heart.
Yeah, it is different if you focus that energy towards that and the thoughts.
So what happens over time, remember neuroplasticity. Sometimes people say to me, Carolyn, I don't really feel anything yet, right? And I describe this in the book, how some people are walking around really cut off from their hearts, right? This is the dark heart. This is where you can be really heady, really in fear. You've numbed yourself from your emotions. Maybe there's trauma from your childhood in different ways. You don't really want to feel things. But over time, we start to reawaken those neurons. Neuroplasticity isn't just for the neural pathways in the head. It's between heart and brain. So what I say to those people, what I say to you, Carolyn, is keep doing these practices because over time, they build and they build. And sometimes you're like, whoa, I feel really differently, which has been my experience. Wow. It's so much easier for me to feel truly peaceful in my day-to-day life, which is priceless. We can have all the achievements. You can check things off the box. You can do your to-do list. But at the end of the day, you're frazzled. You haven't really enjoyed your day. And I think this is the experience for many people versus being coherent and being able to harmonize with your life and enjoy these little moments because this is where life is.
It's really interesting because I feel like the neuroplasticity is becoming trendy, like on social media. And maybe it's because of things like ketamine and different things out there that are, and different substances that are, people are waking up to this of like, oh, I can change those neural pathways in my brain so that I don't always go to the same place when I'm anxious, and I don't always go to the same place when I'm mad. But we never talk about neuroplasticity with the heart.
And that is because most people do not know that the heart has 40,000 neurons, right? So it has become more widespread, this idea that we are malleable, we are dynamic, we are adaptable. We don't have to live out the same patterns. We don't have to be products of our environment. We don't have to, Basil van der Kolk in his book, The Body Keeps a Score, said that 75% of Americans have a form of trauma, not just, a one-time incident, but maybe there was a form of neglect or, equating love with achievement or whatever it was, right? Types of trauma. We don't have to live that way our whole lives. We can step into different levels of freedom. But what I'm saying is, some of these modalities can be really helpful for people. You can go to a ketamine clinic, maybe you try some psilocybin, or you do ayahuasca, or you do these things. But how amazing that there's a power inside of you where you don't have to take something. You don't have to be dependent on something, right? You can start to activate this. Maybe you still want to do those modalities. Maybe you're still going to talk to your therapist, and we really still want to eat healthy and change your life. And you can learn about heart coherence. And you could start to awaken this power, which is for all of us, right? One of the truths of Paramahansa Yogananda is all hearts are equal. We all have this potential to grow in these heart stages. We all can access, the fifth stage, Carolyn, the clear heart. It sounds like, lofty and like, oh, this big stage, but we all have these glimpses. Like when you're taking a shower, you're not really thinking and you're just sort of enjoying the water. You're really like looking at that sunset. But what we want is not to just have these experiences be random or once in a while, but to, again, train ourselves up, which is really scientifically and spiritually shown. When we do these practices, we can do that.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, like I said earlier, I think everybody out there wants to be at a better heart stage. It's just a matter of getting there. So I do have one question though, because what about those moments of just that quick emotion of maybe like you're mad at somebody who just cut you off, or your husband just said something to you that you want to fire back something with, those really quick moments of emotions. You don't have time to do a 90-second meditation. And so what's your advice for those types?
So what you're describing is when we live in reaction and we're living right from the amygdala, right? So the amygdala, it happens so fast, we don't even know what's being triggered. And I describe that science in detail in the book as well, in the Propelled Heart chapter. Oh, this, traffic hits, I immediately start to get angry. Or this person says something, they interrupt me, and it reminds me, somewhere deep inside a trauma stored in my amygdala of not being seen and heard. So I get really angry. It happens so fast. So the way that, I'm not saying you have to take 90 seconds or do an 8-minute meditation, but what we can over time train ourselves to do, especially if the morning you take an 8 minutes to be more coherent with the heart aligned meditation. But whether or not you do, what you want to do is, first of all, recognize there are really strong reactions. We have to see ourselves first. Remember the dark heart, you don't see the patterns, so you can't change. As the heart awakens, the yogis say your third eye starts to awaken. So first of all, just start to be aware of these little, how your voice gets sharp really quickly when something happens, and just slow down a little bit. And what you can do is put your attention on your heart. Let's say you want to rise up, you want to say something, slow down, go into your heart, and just take a few deep breaths in and out of your heart. That alone, those 2 steps, heart-focused breathing. And what the research shows is it starts to change the input. You start to be less of a prisoner to your amygdala, and you're going to start to turn on that heart brain, which is so much more intelligent and has a wider perspective. It's like zooming out. So it's not so personal. Ego is like, ugh, I don't like this. This person said this. It gets into that fight right away. Heart gets wider. So the example was my husband with the boxes. It happened so quickly. The first thing out of my mouth was the amygdala reaction, sharp. And then right away I went in. I did the practice. It was about 10 seconds. Different outcome. Slowed down. My heart coherence turned on. And yes, I am doing the heart aligned meditation in the morning. So it's, again, your baseline grows. So it's easier and easier to get into that state. It's really, really worth it for 32 minutes a week, as little as that. And then I could just turn to him in a coherent state and shift, but still express the need. I think this is the big thing. If you want to say something sharp to your husband, underneath there is a need. I want you to respect what I'm saying. I want you to listen. I want you to actually help with this. But when we're in a reactive place, we don't get our needs met. It repels people. They can feel that chaos. It comes out of our throat, right? So just taking a few seconds to slow down actually saves so much more. It's way more efficient. You slow down, you get coherent. It gets better over time, right? You become more and more coherent. Take a deep breath. I noticed the garbage wasn't taken out again. I really, I just need some more help around the kitchen. I would love for you to do it more regularly. When we're so clear and we're so coherent, people hear us. When I ran into Deepak Chopra on the street, I had a clear heart moment that I also describe in the book. He just reviewed one of my books, but I felt like we were meant to do something more. It was like this, Carolyn. Deepak, it's me, Kimberly. You just reviewed my book. No meekness, like, who am I to go up to him or what's he going to think? So clear. He said, oh, great. Here's my cell phone. 2 weeks later, we met at a coffee shop. We sat down together, decided to write a book, sketched it out on a napkin. It's called Radical Beauty. It went on to become a New York Times bestseller. Do you know how many people must come up to Deepak? He doesn't give his cell phone number out. It's how we show up. This is what heart coherence can do. How you embody, the energy you embody. Doesn't matter what you say, all your business goals, all your personal goals. That's great, but you have to embody the energy of it. You can't just be up in your mind. I call this in the book the unbridled, it's like a wild horse. Your ego, your thoughts just running around, keeping you in these loops, keeping you from really experiencing more peace and deep connection with your loved ones or in your work or with yourself in these quiet moments, right? The power of the heart is here to be awakened, to, nourish and just come through every single aspect of your life.
Oh, I love that. Feel like for people that are just maybe new to this, it takes more than just the meditation and things like that. You have to first start with that self-awareness and realize what heart stage you're in and when you're in those stages.
Well, that's why I wrote the book, Carolyn, right? It's awareness comes in different ways. Just knowing about the heart stages, right? I would say to anyone who is even remotely sparked by this concept of the power of the heart, which I believe, again, the ancients always taught this. It's gotten dimmed down in modern day because of all the headiness, linear, very masculine, very, mind. We're not saying the mind isn't important. We're saying the heart and the mind is where you awaken into your true power. I would say if anyone has a little whiff of, I know that I could shift my life. I know there's something more for me. I know I could create on a different level. I know I could be more peaceful, more loving, more fulfillment. Please read about these heart stages. My sincere intention with this book is to spread this heart-led living and wellness movement. I'm just so grateful. This has changed my life so much. My relationship with my husband is probably 90% better. My health, my energy is 60% more. I want everyone to have access to this. Yeah. We live in a world too where there's so much separation, as we all know. There's so much unpeacefulness. The more of us that awaken into our hearts, this is how we're going to change society. This is how we're going to create a different, more unified world. It's not going to come from the head. The head says me versus you, this versus that, this is better, you're wrong, all right. The heart says win-win. Let us find a way to be more peaceful together. We are all in this. We are all brothers and sisters, right? Yeah. One of the things I hear about so much, Carolyn, is I feel bad when I'm on social media. I'm always, in the world, I'm always comparing. I'm always judging myself. I always feel bad. I always feel this and this and this. And when you awaken into your heart, No, you don't have to compare yourself. We are all
No.
this eternal, unique, incredible energy. It starts to dissipate so much that holds us back and depletes us. These lower vibration energies of the dark heart and the propelled heart. We become more coherent. We become more loving and compassionate and peaceful, especially with ourselves.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so a couple more questions, because as you're talking about the different heart stages and we're getting to the devoted and clear heart, in my mind, that is, I call it like emotional intelligence. So can we claim it as like heart intelligence is the same as emotional intelligence, or not really?
So so we could say emotional intelligence, definitely there's a correlation, definitely grows as you become more in your heart intelligence. And this was a term first coined by Doc Childre, who is the founder of Heart Math, which is research-based, but he's also very spiritually attuned. And it's this idea that the heart, again, going back to the ancients and not just the science, there's this gateway, if you will. There's just a different portal, a different framework of looking at life through the heart. So when we are in that heart, we could call it emotional intelligence. We could call it being able to just communicate on a whole other level. It's not so literal as the mind is, well, this person said this. When you're in the devoted heart, Carolyn, it's more like, I see that that person is really struggling today. So I'm not going to take it personally. I see through to this person is really doing their best. And just, this is really what they're trying to say. It's this incredible, expansive emotional intelligence and intuition. And study after study shows that emotional intelligence is what is really correlated with all around life success, not IQ. So when we can really step into this much higher level, expansive way of emotional resilience, communication, we can really come to a whole other level of success and abundance in our personal relationships and in our work.
Okay, so I'm curious, do you like then the saying, follow your heart?
So first of all, what most people think of the heart is not the heart. So they think it's the sentimental, like I followed my heart and I really got screwed over by that guy.
Well,
What people think of the heart usually is the erratic emotions of the ego. The jealousy, the anger, the upset, the frustration. That is not your heart. That is the unbridled mind. When you follow your coherent heart, your awakened heart, you are able to discern more over time the messages really coming from your heart. There's also a practice in the book about connecting the heart brain with the gut brain, because there's another brain in your gut, right? So you get these somatic messages. That day I ran into Deepak in the street, I was guided. There's something inside me from the heart gut. It said, walk to the west, which is the opposite direction from my meeting. But I listened, right? If you're up in your head and in the dark, in the thoughts and the confusion, you don't really hear these messages. So following your coherent heart means you've worked on your coherence. You're just more clear and more calm. And now you're really, truly following the heart wisdom versus the ego.
So we could say maybe follow your awakened heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and so now with this gut-heart connection, if I am just working on awakening my heart or having a more coherent heart, is that automatically going to connect to my brain as well as connect to my gut, or I have to do something differently to get it to connect to my gut?
So everything works together. Once again, the heart is the main biological oscillator. So by virtue of getting into more heart coherence, you are definitely going to benefit your brain and your gut health. However, there are specific practices in the book for heart gut. And I also want to say this, as a holistic wellness practitioner and nutritionist, all aspects of our lifestyle really help. So for instance, how we eat, what we're putting in our body will support your gut. My brand Saluna, for instance, we have this glowing greens powder where the main ingredient is amalaki, which is of the thousands of herbs in Ayurveda known as the main rejuvenative herb for heart, gut, and brain. So you're getting 1,250 milligrams every time you take this incredible greens powder, which only has 7 key plants. So it's amazing to ingest something that is also allowing you to be in more heart coherence that has been shown for thousands of years to boost your vitality. So that is something I consume every single day, because from a physical perspective, you can also really help this work. Also, Soluna has these incredible SBO probiotics, soil-borne organism probiotics, how our ancestors used to eat a little bit of soil every day. And that's how they got probiotics that can survive stomach acid, natural form. So I take these probiotics every day because when your gut is more aligned, you're able to be in coherence easier. If you're bloated all the time, if you're constipated like I used to be, right? All these things, it's distracting. It takes it devitalizing. So yes, we're doing the work and the practices in the book. There's also an embodiment section in the book, by the way, for each heart stage about foods and lifestyle practices that will support your awakening heart and gut rate.
Okay, so I feel though like you have to do this together, because just being aware of your heart or getting into that clear heart, that obviously will affect our gut energetically wise and so health wise. But if we're in the clear heart and eating Oreos all day long and Frosted Flakes and Fruit Loops all day long, we're obviously going to have gut issues. So to me, it's like they have to go hand in hand. We're nourishing the body energetically and physically with the food.
So the food affects all levels. You know, my earlier work, the book about the food cravings, right? Energetically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. Let me tell you something, Carolyn. Every great yoga master, from Paramahansa Yogananda, Swami Sri Yukteswar, Ramana Maharshi, they all taught their students about diet. What we eat has a profound effect on our energy, on our meditation practice, on our heart coherence. So that's why Soluna, we have 4 cornerstones: food, body, emotional well-being, and spiritual growth. So when I'm talking about heart-led living, heart-led eating, heart-led body care, right? The heart-led meditations, all of these work together. And the 4-week heart reset program I'm teaching, which I'll teach again in January, and our heart-led living coaching program teaches all of these cornerstones, how to use your heart and heart coherence in this lifestyle way. To your point, it's not just doing the heart-aligned meditation, but really a total lifestyle that will get you the best results.
To me, it seems like we should all just be aware of energy. Like in the Western medicine world, they use energy like on an EKG or something like that. But yet the Western world so wants to just not even open their eyes to energy and what the heart's energy can do, and what, you know, all our different cellular energies can do, and all our emotions and emotional energy and what they can do. And so how do we combine that like Western thought of it doesn't matter and the Eastern thought of it does really matter? How do we blend those together?
So day to day, again, back to learning about these heart stages, learning about the teachings. What's really powerful when you start to do this work, it's experiential, right? I'm not asking you to trust me. When you do the hidden power of the 5 hearts work, you will feel differently. And as you feel differently, you will have inspired action. You will be guided in different ways. Your doctor can be very Western, but you may also feel really inspired to continue. You know, the heart-aligned meditation is revitalizing your energy on such a different level, right? As you learn about this communication, you can say, oh, it's just about what people say. They've always said 90% of communication is nonverbal. It's not just your body language, it's the energy that you are embodying. So it's not our job to convince all these people. We're not here to just change the minds of people that don't really want to see. What we do, Carolyn, is we live our truth. We awaken our hearts on our journey. And sometimes we can inspire people to know more. We can share about this work. They can learn about it too. Sometimes you can just change your relationship because you are different, right? And so I just say, focus on your own heart, go forward and see what unfolds.
Oh, I love that so much. That's the best answer anybody has ever given me on that. So thank you. Okay, like I said earlier, I know listeners are going to want to learn more. They're going to want the book. They're going to want to practice these things. So where can they find you, the book, and where's the best places to buy?
So The Hidden Power of the 5 Hearts is available now wherever books are sold. My central hub is mysoluna.com. It's mysolluna.com, where we have all the digestion supplements, the information on our courses, the heart aligned meditation tracks with music. I also have my feel good podcast and social media. I'm at @_ Kimberly Snyder.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here. I have really enjoyed talking to you. And I always end my podcast by asking my guests what they have found to be the best ingredient in life. And so what would you say it is?
The best ingredient in life is love. And not just in a cliched way. But the science shows how coherence boosting, how health promoting love really is. And I think we're all meant to be loving, Carolyn, but these layers, right? The ego, the hardening, the hurry energy, the propelled heart, it cuts us off. So we can soften into this love and let love come into our thoughts. Let love come into how we eat. Love come into our businesses. Love come into our self-care. It will change everything.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Just, it's the love of everything, like you said, but I love that everybody is meant to love. We all have the same heart.
That is what we're meant to be. You know,
Yeah.
in these teachings, you know, the clear heart is really this melding of all hearts together, right? It's our true nature. And modern life can make it feel really like separated from others, and we need to harden up. It's not true, Carolyn. When we are loving, things are more efficient. Things will work better. We will have more health, right? So thank you so much for facilitating this conversation. Thank you so much for your big heart. I want to acknowledge that, Carolyn, because the fact that you were drawn to this book and these teachings, the fact that you want to, you know, help educate people and help people in their lives. I mean, your authentically big heart is one I truly appreciate.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. And, you know, this world is a hard world, and it is busy and stressful and crazy. And it all comes down to people awakening their heart and learning how to be more coherent with their heart so that we can love others and do better and do what we're meant to do.
That's right. Exactly.
So thank you so much for being here. And I know I'm going to go read that book and really study it and ponder it, because I actually have quite a few things to go ponder after talking to you. And so thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much. And keep in touch with me. Let me know how your heart journey continues to unfold.
I will. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to subscribe to the Just Ingredients podcast to learn more about your health and good ingredients to life. Plus, get daily tips at just.ingredients on Instagram.